A very good evening, everyone at Tushita and everyone online. Thank you for joining us, and thank you very much to Venerable Tenzin Namdrol, who accepted, on such short notice. She's in Delhi just for one night. She accepted to come and answer our questions, as normally Venerable Thupten Wangdu was supposed to teach today and tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's not happening today and tomorrow. Maybe you know Venerable Wangdu, no, from Tushita Dharamshala. So he's coming next week, actually. He's coming next Monday and next Tuesday. So thank you so much, Venerable Tenzin Namdrol. And I don't know if people here are familiar with Venerable. If you've been to Kopan Monastery, then most likely you have seen Venerable. For I don't know how many years you have been taking care of Rinpoche's room, right? And headquarters in Kopan. So, and you've been ordained since the 90s, I guess, something like that, no?
89.
89, oh, okay, so that's much more than I thought. Wow. Cannot begin to imagine the merit. 40, how many? 36 years living in the vows. This is incredible. So thank you very much for accepting to give us a talk tonight and answer our questions. And if online you have questions, we'll give you the opportunity to unmute yourselves. I would like to request, though, please also turn your cameras on so Venerable can see you, when you ask your question. And here, of course, we'll just pass the microphone around so people online will also hear whatever questions you have. And I have many questions to Venerable, so if you are not too much inspired, don't worry. I have a long list of questions. I was very inspired. But yeah, maybe actually, Venerable, you could start by telling us a little bit, about yourself, and especially, how you met the Buddha Dharma and how you met Rinpoche and how did this all unfold,
So I should start there.
If that sounds good.
So good evening, everyone. And it's nice to be here. And I'm not sure there's much benefit, but since Nico asked me, and after he asked me, I said, really, I'm not a public speaker and this is not something that I do. And then I was sitting in Gaia Airport, and then when I just looked at my Facebook page, there was a post from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and he said, you should think this is the last day of your life. So then I thought, if this is the last day of my life, perhaps I should do it. So, well, we can all be motivated by Rinpoche, and Rinpoche's special teaching of all his teachings was the altruistic mind of enlightenment, to become enlightened for the benefit, for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So from our little chat, that can be our motivation to contribute to that big picture. So I don't know where to start with my life, probably India, because I grew up in Australia, and in the, 70s, early 80s, I guess I was trying to do what most Australians did, was just enjoy the life as much as you can. And in doing that, well, for me anyway, I'm not so introspective, and especially at that time, but I really didn't recognize how dissatisfied I was. I was quite good at changing activities when the peak of the enjoyment started to wane. Then I already had a few things lined up for next. So trying to live off the highs, if you like, of things. Not so extreme, I don't think. I wasn't kind of a hippie, but just I went from one thing to the other all the time. So I was quite busy in that regard. I shared a house with a girlfriend, and she used to remind me that I was never at home. I never spent the weekend there. I was always doing something. And I don't know, it depends on your circumstances, I guess, but while you can manage that and you have the resources for that, then you just keep on going with that. And then suddenly my father died. He had a heart attack. And when I recovered from the sadness of that, I really started to wonder what I was doing. So that was probably the impetus that encouraged me to travel and see what the world was doing, so that when I went back to my, I don't know, that time I saw it as like a black tunnel. As you get older, you lose your freedoms. Like when you're at university, as long as you pass your exams, you can do whatever you like. And then you see the story of other people's lives, kind of commitments, partners, mortgages, children, if that's the way. Not everyone goes that way, but if that's the way you go. And so I saw my life as like a narrowing tunnel with less light. So I thought, if I travel around the world, see what everybody does, then I'll know why I'm going down there. Anyway, so in my travels, whoever I met, they loved India or they hated it. And you never found many people who said, well, go there if you like, but it doesn't matter if you don't. People just always had strong reactions to India. So, I mean, to cut the story shorter, then I ended up traveling with someone because people said, travel with a guy in India, it's much easier if you're a Western girl. And his interest was to find what you could find in India in a spiritual sense. And if he found that, he would stay here. And many things happened in between, but actually, ultimately, I did what he wanted to do, and he went back to Australia. So India gave me my life, actually, because it's probably one of the most, if not the most, spiritually oriented countries. Lots of things go on here. People have all different traditions that they follow, and somehow they manage it. It's quite inspiring. So anyway, one thing led to another, and I met Tibetan Lamas in Dharamsala, and then people were going to Kopan for a November course, and I didn't want to go back to work, and I didn't know what to do, and my backpack was getting heavier. So I went with them to Kopan, and then I also didn't know what to do, and then someone said, oh, don't worry about what to do, just do Vajrasattva retreat. And I thought, great, someone's telling me what to do. And I had 5 or 6 months before I joined a Vajrasattva retreat in Dharamsala. And so then somebody asked if I would, if anyone wanted to come and help at Tushita in Delhi. So at that time, Tushita in Delhi was in Shantiniketan, I think. So Tushita, as you know, or if you know, has moved around a lot in Delhi. So I first met Tushita in 1985. So I helped there. After my Vajrasattva retreat in Dharamsala, I still didn't know what to do, so I went back to Kopan and did another November course. But I always loved the teachings. And many things I didn't immediately accept because culturally, basically, I'd never thought about it. Past and future lives, karma, these things. But somehow the way the Lamas taught, they had a sense of being completely genuine. I may not agree with the words straight away, but there was a sense that they were telling me things that I don't know if I needed to know, but there seemed some incredible truth to them. So that's what kind of caught me, if you like. So then, instead of backpacking to different places, I just Dharma course from place to place, back to Kopan. So the second time I went to Kopan after that, Rinpoche asked me if I would stay there and volunteer and help. And my job description was organize courses and talk to the people. Kind of simple. Anyway, probably the first year in Kopan was the hardest year of my life, because, I mean, it's a great place and I still live there and I still appreciate it immensely, but my mind was so different to that place. I was quite new to Dharma. I was a girl in a monastery with a bunch of boys. I wasn't ordained, they were all monks. It was kind of like I was everything that that place wasn't. So that was me and my ego and my eye grasping and all those things that cause us to suffer. So yeah, I guess I had to learn fast. But interestingly, my friends tried to give me a holiday because they saw how miserable I was. And I somehow at least got a little bit of the fact that this is my mind and my experience. And if I go somewhere else, it's going to go with me. So I may as well just stay there. And then, of course, things got better. I got better, maybe a little bit. But I think my greatest inspiration for all these years is the lamas that took care of me. The abbot of the monastery, great kind Lama Zopa. I spent some time at a centre in New Zealand, and there was one Geshe teaching there. He also took care of me. And when I say took care of me, took care of my mind. So when I was stupid, they would tell me. Yeah, when I was an idiot, they would tell me straight. And at the time it was unbearable, but it was so useful. And this I slowly got to learn was the value of a real, genuine spiritual teacher. And I remember once I came back from New Zealand for a holiday, and I asked Lama Zopa, the abbot, I said, can I come back? It was November course time. And I asked him, could I come back? And he said, yes, but you have to work. So then I got the meditations of the November course. That was my holiday. And then I had half a mind that I would stay there because I had really grown to like it. And I had an appointment with Rinpoche one night. It was like 2:00 in the morning. And everything in that interview was about New Zealand, where I'd come from. So I got the feeling that I wasn't going anywhere except to New Zealand and back again. And I mean, my wish was to stay there, but I learned from Rinpoche that he never gave what you wanted. He gave what you needed. And it's like for a person who's egoless, that's not a problem. He doesn't have to do something that will make me happy so that I will like him. He can just lay it out straight, and that's it. And sometimes it's quite hard when you don't get what you want. But at the same time, someone who's guiding you and telling you what you need, that you can't even see yourself, right? Because we always just go for the short-term, quick fix, if you like, immediate happiness without looking at a bigger picture. So for someone like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he's looking at how to get this person to enlightenment, not to next Christmas or up to their next birthday, right? Or to the end of the tenure of their job or something short, or even to the end of this life. It's how to get this person enlightened. And so to meet people, beings with this kind of perspective is really amazing. So, I mean, I don't do anything much. I'm not a studious person. I can study for a while. I kind of get bored. Then I have to go and fill some offering bowls, which I did for about 20 years. I fix things. I make things. I make a mess of things. That's what I am. But anyway, the best part is that I met these super fantastic beings who have an incredible perspective. So that makes me happy. That keeps me going. That's it.
Venerable, we get the feedback online that people have a hard time understanding you.
I'm not surprised. You're lucky.
So I was wondering, either maybe we could put the microphone a little bit closer, or perhaps you could speak a little bit louder also, if you don't mind.
Should I hold it?
That's up to you. Yeah, but
sorry. Yeah.
And yeah, does anybody have a follow-up question or another question? Online, you can simply unmute yourself and ask, and here, please raise your hand and we can pass the microphone around. Otherwise, I will carry on with my questions for the time being.
Okay.
So, yes, I was curious about more details about what you just shared. You mentioned a November course. So I was wondering which year was that? And then I was wondering, yeah, then between that first time in Kopan and your ordination, how many days or weeks or months or years passed, and what made you wish to become a monastic?
Ordained. My first course, my first November course was 1983. So you can a little bit calculate how old I am. Ancient. Then I did 84 course. I started living in Kopan 85. And a couple of times during probably 85, 86, 87. Lama Lunda was a great, kind abbot at that time. I remember the first time he said to me, he said, "You should become a nun." And my immediate response, without thinking anything, was like, "Yeah, but what about my mother?" Because I knew this wasn't kind of in line with her thinking. So probably Lama Lunda suggested, Lama Lunda encouraged, and in the end, Rinpoche said, when I did ask, he said, "When you're sure." And I thought I was sure, but actually in my head I was sure, but I had to wait till I was sure in my heart that there wasn't a kind of contradiction. And like my first response, I had to be sure that when my mother really freaked out, if you like, that I was ordained, that it wouldn't change my mind. So basically, 85% of my family freaked out. Because at that time, it was the late 80s, there were lots of funny things going on in the world, not unlike now, but there was a Jim Jones, I think, in America, and he and his followers had just burnt themselves alive in their house or something, some kind of weird things. So I think my family thought I just joined one of these cults. So it took some years for them to get used to it and then realize that I can still watch television with them and I can still do stupid things with them and like that. Then they realize she's really not much different from before. Like that. Yeah.
Anybody? You have a question?
See, they're all more shy than me.
Can you say again?
They're more shy than me.
I would request, Venerable and Tenzin, if you could share with us one of your stories with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I'm sure you have many, but maybe you could choose one and share with us. Or two or three.
Well, I think people who met Lama Zopa Rinpoche, they all have their own stories. Well, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I mean, most people know, I think, Zopa means patience. And yeah, Rinpoche had unbelievable patience. So through different events, I ended up, it started off as the abbot of Kopan said, Lama Zopa Rinpoche is coming in 2 weeks, so please go upstairs, clean his apartment and offer the water bowls. And I think at that time there was 2 or 3 sets, 15, 20, something like that. And then after Rinpoche came that time, he went to Tibet. The time, what was it, when they made the movie, Mystic Tibet or something. Is that what it is? Yeah. And that was for a couple of weeks, I think. So I thought, yes, I'll do the water bowls for a couple of weeks, and Rinpoche will come back, and then I will do something else. And so anyway, as things turned out, I kind of, I kept doing the water bowls for years. And I don't know if you know about making water offerings, but when you first clean the bowls very well, and then you put incense under them to kind of purify them, make them super clean, and then you offer. So by that time, it was some years later, we kept adding more and more water bowls to the room. So we ended up with hundreds that we did every day. I had people helping me in the end. And how did it go? Yeah, so we would offer these water bowls every morning. And of course, Rinpoche wasn't there for most of the year, but he would come November course time. And then I think it was probably after 9 years, Rinpoche said to me one day, he waited 9 years watching me every time he came, doing the water bowls, but not saying anything. And then after 9 years, he said, it would be really good if when you do the water bowls, you can put the incense under each bowl. And I said, oh, Rinpoche, I'd do better than that. I've filled the incense box with so much incense and it fills the whole room. And by virtue of that, it automatically goes under the bowls. And he looked at me and he said, yes, it would be really good if you could put the incense under each of the bowls. Under each of the bowls. I am sorry. Do I have to, shall I say it again? It's okay.
Did you want you can keep it again, but maybe a bit higher or on the other side, a little bit
longer? No, can't do it.
I can maybe help to clip it. This is good?
Yeah.
There's only one green light.
No, there are 2 green lights. Yeah.
Probably press the button.
Oh.
Sorry.
Mm.
No, it's okay.
So for me, that was really impressive that Rinpoche could have just said it when he first saw my mistakes. But for whatever reason, maybe he thought I would get discouraged, or I don't know. But he waited 9 years for that small advice. So for me, that's patience. Yeah. No, Rinpoche had many qualities, many stories. He was always giving. And I bought this little guy this morning today. Usually if I travel, I take something that Rinpoche gave me. And Rinpoche had travelled through Bangkok and came to Kathmandu. And in Bangkok, Rinpoche had bought lots of these little toys, many toys. And then when he came to Kopan, he said to me, I bought all these toys to give the people at the airport when I arrived, but there were too many people and not enough toys, so I couldn't give them. So then he gave them at another time. But he always had the thought to give Rinpoche, well, later in his life, maybe less because he was more busy, but it wasn't unusual that you would receive a card from Rinpoche and it would have Rinpoche's scholarly writing, beautiful scholarly writing, all over it, sometimes all over the picture. And you wouldn't get one card, you'd get 2 or 3 beautiful flowers, whatever, some postcards from, I don't know, places all over the world, whatever. And then, so there's the writing, there's the message, there's 3 or 4, not one. And then many would be decorated with stickers, animals and flowers and funny things. And you could see Rinpoche was making a whole like artwork for this one person. And this was also something, like when Rinpoche answered people's letters, when people didn't see Rinpoche personally, but they would write letters to his secretary and then he would answer. And I forget the longest one. I wasn't there, I think Holly, Venerable Holly, his secretary, I know it was like 35 typed pages, something like this, some incredible amount. And sometimes, occasionally, I did letters with Rinpoche. And when he answered one person's letter, that one person was the whole universe. He didn't stop for tea, missed meal, or whatever. And you could sense all of his energy went for that one person. That was quite impressive. Then, of course, Rinpoche became famous because he had the name of the Lama who didn't sleep. So for Rinpoche, night and day was the same. There was one time Rinpoche was going to leave Kopan, it was the night before, and he was trying to finish up everything. And his attendant, and Roger, said, Rinpoche, there's this request, this, you promised to, but you're leaving in the morning. So maybe just do this and part of that. And Rinpoche would look in like disbelief and say, but Roger, we have all night. And he would literally use that whole night. So day, night, whatever. And it was always what I saw, and I only saw a small fraction of Rinpoche's life. But yeah, I mean, what Rinpoche could do in the last half an hour before the airport was amazing. He would put it all in there, see people do things, give advice. And I mean, it's not like now, but in the past, when you missed your flight, you just rebook it. There's no penalty, there's no buying a new ticket, whatever. Rinpoche missed quite a few flights. I remember one time it was monsoon in Kopan, and I think I wanted to see Rinpoche, but there was no time. So the secretary said, jump in the jeep, you might get a chance. And to get to Bodhanath, which is before the airport, it was monsoon, the road was bad. We were all out pushing the jeep through the mud. So we were always just getting later and later. And we got to one intersection, Chapel intersection, which is getting close to the airport. And Rinpoche said, I think we've missed it. And then we turned around and went to someone's house. Yeah, there was a story Rinpoche missed a flight because of 2 ants. He saw 2 ants in the bed, the seat where he sat, and those 2 ants had gone under a pillow or something, and he wasn't leaving until he knew they were safe and wouldn't be disturbed by people. So they missed that flight, I think, for the 2 ants. Anyway, there's so many stories with Rinpoche.
I'm sure we'll talk more about Rinpoche. In the meantime, there is a question online from Roland. He's asking, what is the purpose of life?
Oh. I already said I wasn't a scholar. Well, the Lamas always tell us the purpose of life is to be happy. Simple as that. So you can look at all the activities that you do, drinking coffee, eating cake, going to the movies, studying for this profession, for this job, your relationships, your pastime. It's all, we're trying to add happiness all the time. And then the more you look and the more you see, the more you analyze, then you see that the happiness comes from the inside, not completely from the outside. We have a dependent relationship there, but the essence, the main thing is the happiness that we generate in our mind. And then, of course, if one listens to the teachings of great Lama Zopa Rinpoche, then the greatest happiness is to benefit others. So as much as one develops oneself, one is able to benefit others. And the more one is able to benefit others, actually, the more happy you become. I mean, the examples of the Lamas shows that their life, they live for others, and they're always happy. Even when their students like me are completely ridiculous, they're still happy. No, it's really, yeah. The happiness that you generate from your mind is the genuine one.
And then Roy, I think you have a question. Please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead. If you can turn on your camera also, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I just have, yes. Venerable, thank you so much for being with us today. My question is about impermanence. Am I audible?
Yes, to
Yeah,
me
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, my question is about impermanence. What are the causes of impermanence? I have one or two follow-up questions too, which I'll keep in my pocket for now. But just this for now, please.
The causes of impermanence. Didn't I tell you I wasn't a scholar? Because, as I mean, simply what comes to mind for me is things come into existence dependent on causes and conditions. And those causes and conditions are often in and of themselves moment by moment changing. So the result they create is also moment by moment changing. So you can't have impermanent causes creating permanent results, as far as I understand, and vice versa. So it's the causes and conditions which are themselves impermanent. So what is it? All compounded phenomena are impermanent. So things come into existence and they go out of existence because they're not a self-sustaining, independent entity, but the result, simply the result of other causes and conditions. And those other causes and conditions are the result of other causes and conditions ad infinitum, like that.
Yes, Venerable. It is this infinite series of causes and conditions. That would involve a certain amount of conviction in something which one can't prove.
You can't prove that you're impermanent, that
No,
you change moment by moment.
no, not that. The fact that the causes and conditions keep changing, and this change carries on infinitely. The aspect that it is infinite would need a belief, and the conviction for that belief. How would one develop a conviction for the belief that the causes and conditions have an infinite series of prior occurrence?
Maybe you have to become clairvoyant. I don't know. I mean, His Holiness, the Lamas, from what I understand, they're always asking us, like you, to challenge the ideas, to think about them, to look at them with reasoning, but to look at them also in your own experience. Things around you, outside things, internal phenomena. I mean, what stays the same? Ever? I mean, one has to meditate, of course. Meditation, habituating the mind, that's what changes the mind. So to reflect on these things over and over again using everyday examples. Yeah, history, that goes back hundreds, thousands of years. Change, change, change. Look, try and see, and what you see, try and internalize as an experience of what you see. I think that's kind of meditation. Habituating your mind to what it is you're kind of looking at, analyzing, trying to understand. And every time you try, it doesn't mean you get answers straight away, but every time you try to look, you get something, I think. Yeah. And then you just add up those somethings.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else online would like to ask a question or here in person? Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Venerable. And this question is, what is the purpose of Lama Zopa Rinpoche has all of these toys with him when he was teaching? Because I'm sorry, but I'm curious. Because he always put mantras on these animals, and please, thank you.
So is the question why?
What was the purpose of the toys plus the stuffed animals?
Oh, I think it's another very good example of how Rinpoche uses everything in his world to transmit Dharma. So actually, all those toys, and I can do a small advertisement for the publication of the pictures of all those toys. So they're going to be published so you can read them all, not just the ones that you saw if you watched online teachings during the COVID period. And so, I mean, Rinpoche did say to me once, he said, people see all these toys around me. I think people are going to give me a lot of toys, thinking that people see Rinpoche enjoys with the toys. Oh, what could I give Rinpoche? I could give him a toy, right? So he kind of jokingly said that. But it came about because it was COVID time and it was lockdown, and one very kind lady in Kathmandu would sometimes send up like special treats, like different kinds of nice food, because during COVID time it was getting a bit kind of mundane, boring, the same thing over and over again. So she would find ways to send up different kinds of things to eat, and she would also send up a couple of toys just for fun with the food. And then Rinpoche would kind of look at them and then, I mean, how to use them, not just for his own enjoyment, but how to use them to benefit people. So for Rinpoche, if he puts a Dharma note or sentence or idea on them, or a mantra, then he gives it to someone as a gift. Then they have that Dharma message on the couch in their lounge room or on the bed in their bedroom to remind people of the essence of Dharma. And there was one very nice story. There was one, I think one of the girls who helped me with the water bowls during the COVID time, because they were also locked in the monastery, nobody could leave. And so we're all stuck there together. And while the rest of the world was experiencing all kinds of things, we were stuck, if you like, in Kopan with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And it was a really good way to get stuck. And so she was helping me with water bowls for quite a few months. And then Rinpoche was teaching online. And then her mother was watching the teaching online. And then the mother asked her, please ask Rinpoche, can I have one of the toys? And then, of course, Rinpoche said, yes, she can choose. So from the pictures online, she chose one of the toys. And when we were able to send things, we sent it to her. She was in Brazil. And Paula's mother, she had lots of mental problems, worries, concerns. Sometimes she wouldn't sleep for days. And then she received this toy from Rinpoche, and she sleeps with it, and now she doesn't have any problem to sleep. So not only did Rinpoche write a Dharma message, but you'll see they turn up on the internet from time to time, Rinpoche blessing the toys. So Rinpoche recites many mantras every day. And then before blessing the toys, he would recite more mantras. And then profusely, with a lot of energy, blow all over them. So the essence of the mantra would go into the toys. So that particular, I think it was an alligator. I forget what the alligator said, but anyway, that cured her of a lot of her mental disturbance. So that's a pretty good result of a toy with writing on it, isn't it? Yes? Yeah. So I think if you want to read all the messages of the toys, Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, this is my little kind of advertisement. It will publish it in February. So it should be available sometime after that.
And I think in the meantime, on the fpmt.org website, also many of them have been taken in photos.
Yes.
If you're curious, I think there are maybe 100 of them are already there, but then
Oh, really?
there will be more. Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's quite a few there I saw. Yes.
And I think Neil or Gabi, I think I saw you also had a question. Neil, please go ahead.
What is the meaning of both gallo?
Did you get that one? Sorry, I didn't get it so clearly, but Nico might get it.
No, sorry, Neil, that was not audible.
Both gallo. What is the meaning?
The meaning of what, Neil? Sorry.
In Tibetan, I've only heard this word like a bodh gallo.
Is it some expression that the Tibetans use when they put prayer flags or when they do incense pujas? Po might be Tibet, Gello could be Victorious, but don't quote me.
Peu. And then the second word
Gello.
would be.
It's like, I'm not a Tibetan scholar, amongst other things.
Wow, I'm impressed.
But we will check and we will let you know.
I'm impressed you got that.
Well, I'm just guessing. Neil, we will check and we will let you know. Nico will tell you. Is that okay?
Okay.
But I think that's exactly what, yeah, you got it right, I think.
Anyway, I will check.
The second word I forgot, but yeah, it's something like that. Peu.
Gello. It's like Victoria.
It's like, yeah, made Tibet be free again also probably.
Yeah, I will check with some Tibetan speakers and let Nico know, and he will let you know. Okay? Then you have a genuine source.
And then Gabi, please go ahead. Gabi, did you have a question? No? Okay. I thought I saw you had a question, sorry. If you have, just unmute yourself and ask, no worries. Anybody else would like to ask something here in person or online?
There is a question in the chat.
Oh, there is a question in the chat. Thank you for reminding me, Roy. Yes, from Joyce. So Joyce, she's asking, she says, I have a brother who's very terminally ill, and he knows nothing about Buddha Dharma, while I personally have been practicing the Dharma for some time now. I have been wondering how I can help him to transit more peacefully, rather than with fear and clinging and leaving behind near and dear ones.
I think there is an online source. Nico might help you find it. No, but there's an online source of Rinpoche's advices. Is it Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive?
It's fpmt.org/death.
But I know also Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, you can also put in the search different topics, and some are answers to people's questions. So this question, I'm sure Rinpoche has answered many times for people. There's specific mantras to help people. They might not be Buddhist, but you can recite them and dedicate for them. The bottom line is to be a kind-hearted person who gives some warmth and kindness to the person in that difficulty. Somebody that they can feel comfortable with, that they can share their fears and their whatever with. To be kind of magnanimous in patience and kindness around them, to give them that kind of emotional support. That, I think, is really, because if one also becomes disturbed, agitated, fearful or whatever of their circumstance, then they will pick up on that. But if you're kind of open, kind, warm-hearted, things that make them feel special, because in that situation they don't feel special at all, of course. And then, of course, whatever specific advices Rinpoche has given over the years. Yeah. But if one is a practitioner, then one's kind-heartedness, one's calmness, one's openness, with less kind of emotional reaction, this is really a great support for people. They feel like they can also relax with that.
Joyce, would you like to add something, or are you satisfied?
Yeah, Nico, yes, I'm very happy at the response Venerable has given. I'll try to do my best. My brother is very ill, and yes, it's a difficult time for all of us. But yes, thank you. Thank you, Venerable.
Also, that difficulty that you deal with, that you make that your practice, so that it's a challenge. Yes, it's probably the most difficult, one of the most difficult things in the life, to help people in that way. But you decide that you're going to do it really well for them. And if you think less about yourself and more about how can I make it better for them, instead of it being our difficulties with this difficult situation. Forget about yourself and think, what is the most I can do to make this person comfortable, happy, as much as possible, whatever. Then your practice will develop, your practice develops, they will get the benefit of your practice.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you.
Give yourself, you probably have to give yourself a pep talk every morning, a confidence booster. Today I'm going to do it really well, isn't it? This is my last chance. Like Rinpoche says, today's the last day. Today I'm going to do it really well for this person. Special, extra, the most I can, make it really nice. And then just do that every day. And some days aren't as good as other days, but that doesn't matter. Every day is a new day and you start off strong again. So of course, your meditation practice, your preparation for your interaction with that person is quite important. I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be thoughtful, I'm going to listen. Whatever they need, I'm there for them as much as I can. Yeah.
Any other question online?
Anila, we miss you here in Bodh Gaya. Greetings.
That's not a question. Oh.
That was cute, thank you. I have a question. I would like to ask if you could talk more about, because I guess it is very rare to be close to an enlightened master. So I would like to ask you to talk a bit more about your experience of being so close to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and yeah, how was that? And
Well, there's different types of close. Lama Yeshe once said, my best students are not the students who are physically close to me. My best students are the ones on the other side of the world, practicing what I teach them. That's what makes you close to a Lama. Because they teach how to think, how to act, how to speak. And if you take that on board and practice it, then actually you become like them. And that's what makes you close. And I have my own experience of being physically close to Rinpoche with a completely berserk mind. Because somehow that situation, you can think of, I don't know, Rinpoche's pure energy as a mirror that reflects all the dirt and garbage in your own mind. So you can't pretend it's not there. It's like we just came from Bodh Gaya, and I said to my friend, the best signage advertising their shop business is the Magadha sweet store. Magadha sweets, Indian sweets. It's a big sign, it's bright, it's there day and night, right? So it's like a holy being. Their purity, if you like, is just a clean mirror reflecting all your garbage, mental, blah, blah. And so you can be physically close to a person like that, and you just see all the nonsense in your mind. So that's one experience of close, right? But the real genuine close is to be able to put into practice what you've learned. And the way you know is when you face difficulties. Do you react in the same old way? Get upset, get annoyed, get impatient, answer back, blah, blah, blah. Or do you stay cool? Yeah. No, when we were in Bodh Gaya just now, we met, first we didn't know who it was. We met one Lama called Lelu Rinpoche, and he wrote one of the Swift Return Prayers for Rinpoche. But before we knew who he was, both my friend and I, we kind of, our expression was that this person is so smooth. You could feel his whole vibration, his energy, his way of talking, his way of being was really smooth, which meant his mind was really smooth. So of course, if you meet these kinds of beings, you get inspired to become like that because it has such a nice vibration, if you like. And it gives you some confidence that the mind can be developed to be like that. But the work of doing it, I think, of course, to be inspired is important, but the work of doing it, you don't do right next to a Lama. You do that on your cushion, in your room, whether you meditate, whether you serve the lamas, whether you work in the centers, whether you study, whatever, that's the real closeness to the lamas, I think. Whatever they've ever expressed as advice, things to do, collect those, keep those, and work at putting those into practice. That's really the closeness, I think. Yeah.
I think I've heard there is a Tibetan saying that translates that there is a danger when we are very close to the Guru physically to get burnt by his light, right? And was there ever a danger for you of losing your devotion around Rinpoche?
No, I don't think so. No, sometimes I was extremely tired, but I always admired Rinpoche. No, as much as I can remember. No, I always admired because, yeah, Rinpoche, yeah. I mean, you could see sometimes it was almost like Rinpoche was very good to play games. Not in the sense of let's get out the cards and play a game, but Rinpoche's style would be to see how you would react. You know, like when you're really tired or you're really busy, and then Rinpoche would say, oh, can you come back in an hour? And in your mind you want to say, can I have 8 so I can sleep? But then you say, yes, Rinpoche, of course. And you find some way in your mind to make it work. So it's like a game. It's like he's just seeing how you would react. And I know from some situations, some people who were going to come back, but they didn't. Rinpoche doesn't say anything. And that's another quality I found from Rinpoche that I hadn't seen maybe before. But you could mess up. He'd ask you to do something, you do it completely wrong, upside down, didn't get it right, forgot to do it, whatever. And I would come back and apologize. And for Rinpoche, it had already passed. He didn't have that, you know, that mind we have, like, it's almost like, I'll remind you that you didn't do it, or I'll somehow sneak that back in a conversation that didn't go. You know, we always have some kind of, I don't know what the word is, some subtle or gross retaliation. Rinpoche never had that. He never kind of said, remember when you didn't do that? Or this isn't working because you didn't do what I said before. Right? It was like it had already passed, he'd already moved on. There were many other things to do. This I found was quite unusual, comparing to my own way of behaving. Yeah.
Anybody would like another question? Online, in person? Yes?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Venerable, for doing this. It's really helpful to, ask you and get to know so much about Rinpoche. I've just wondered, maybe from the archives or from your own experience, how does one encourage or inspire a fellow practitioner if they are really struggling financially?
Help them get a job.
Yes, that's, of course, that's one, the most practical, important thing to do. But yeah, of course, they are doing a job and they are, working very, very hard. And but there's just, over many, many years, it's somehow a lot of financial obstacles arise. So, and I mean, I know that person is, a very, very good practitioner. And in fact, I was able to, sort of get acquainted to the Dharma because of them. And it's a little heartbreaking for me to see that. And then I worry about it. But I feel like I don't know how to sort of help beyond a point. Of course, aside from, the obvious financial help that I might be able to do in my own small way, but it's
not enough.
Yeah, it just feels like it's an endless sort of well.
Yeah, No, some situations don't have immediate solutions. This is something also to think about. There's one Lama that I listen to sometimes, and yeah, sometimes kind of we're always trying to fix samsara. Yeah, it's like we can, if we work at it hard enough, we'll make it right. And his example is a faulty plumbing system. You know, it's always going to drip. No, there's some, of course, with friends, people we know, even people we love or admire, we always want to try to help, but we can't always do it. And the lamas don't go around fixing everything. They can't. From their side, they would like to fix everything, but nothing gets fixed from one side. Everything's a dependent arising. Good conditions, then things grow. Negative conditions, then things go down. So, purification, to help the person to be patient with the difficulty, that they can get through it. Yeah, whatever dharma they know. Some things we don't have the capacity to fix, but we can always be their friend. Yeah. No, it's hard. No, Rinpoche, for his decades of working with people, helping people, giving advice, doing this puja, doing this meditation practice, doing this, releasing animals, saving animals' lives to live longer, to cure disease. It didn't mean that all those students lived healthy forever. It's a dependent arising. So it's not easy to answer. Yeah, I mean, our positive experiences are from positive actions we created in the past, and our negative experiences from negativity that we created in the past. And I think the real, for me anyway, kind of a real practitioner is someone who can accept that. This is my creation. We always want to blame something on the outside, the weather or the medicine or the something or the something. It's our negative result, and to be able to somehow accept that. I mean, it's not making a solution, but mentally it gives a lot of, it kind of levels things a bit. No, it's not easy. I don't know if I could answer it. So I just talk around it. Yeah, some things can't be solved. And was it Sirkun Sensha Rinpoche when he was here the other day talking about we always want the toilet clean? Toilets aren't clean. We know what goes into it. You know, it's kind of like sometimes you have a dream world that we can fix it, that we can make it better. Be it you can be a friend and support as much as you can. Try and help if there's some opportunities that might arise that would be good for them. Sorry, I'm not good on that one.
It does help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you.
Nico, do you still have questions?
I have many. I mean, if you're
No,
keen
it's okay.
on continuing,
It's okay.
yes.
If you don't mind.
Huh?
No, it's okay.
Yeah. So one I was curious about is what are your favorite practices?
Well, I don't think I do anything. Eating and sleeping is quite popular. Everyone knows I like eating cake. No, the practices I admire doesn't mean I do them. Tonglen has to be the top. That for me is, if one can develop the mind that is egoless enough to be able to take on the suffering of others, that's phenomenal. And beings do it. I mean, there are beings who said that Rinpoche gave his life for his holiness. And for me, it makes complete sense because around the time Rinpoche passed, there was a lot of things in the media criticizing his holiness, some of his actions, doing this, doing that, whatever. And after Rinpoche passed, you never heard this again. And so someone who is egoless enough, their heart is open enough that they can actually take the negativity of others. This, even just the idea of it, I can't practice forget it, can't solve my own problems. But the idea of Tonglen, taking the suffering of others and giving unconditionally every positive quality, ability, merit, even your life, to others. Just the idea of it, for me, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So, of course, people who dedicate their life to become enlightened and spend their life getting other beings enlightened, that's also phenomenal. But the practice of Tonglen is just, for me, the best. I don't do it, but I like to think about it sometimes, especially when I'm miserable. I think, oh, if I could do Tonglen. Like that. Yeah.
Thank you. And then similarly, you say you're not a scholar, but I've seen you studying with some of my friends, with Venerable Fedor and other scholars. And so I was wondering,
Ken Fedor's a scholar.
what subject was your favorite to study?
Well, I haven't studied for quite a few years. Well, I think it's probably everyone's, well, a lot of people's favorite is Bodhisattva Jaravatara. Yeah, the actions, the activities, the mind of a Bodhisattva. Yeah. Those verses from A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, you can pick up the whole book, you can read one verse, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, one verse or one book, there's always something in there. And as His Holiness says, the patience chapter is really good. Yeah, there's no one, I don't know who says they don't need that, perhaps Great Lama Zopa Rinpoche, but yeah, there's something in there, yeah, for everybody.
Coming back to Rinpoche, I don't know if you told me or you said someone and they repeated to me that the last few weeks or few months before Rinpoche passed away, I mean, my question is very general, like how were the few weeks and months before Rinpoche passed away? And the thing that was reported to me, or that you told me, I don't remember who told me, that the last few weeks or months, every time Rinpoche would meet someone, that person would leave with a lot of gifts. And of course, Rinpoche would always give something to people, but the last few weeks or months before showing the aspect of passing away, people were living with more things.
Perhaps, yes. But yeah, Rinpoche did give a lot anyway. I mean, Rinpoche actually, I mean, I'm kind of I'm really thick-headed actually. So it takes me a lot to get it. And Rinpoche, when I look back, he gave several times some hints that he was leaving. One night he even said, I'm leaving soon. But I didn't get it. Because there was the plan, Rinpoche would go to Tsum in the mountains. And from there he developed these symptoms, the aspect of these symptoms. And after that he passed away. And so I just thought Rinpoche was talking about going to Tsum. So I didn't think anything of it. And another time, like sometimes on the special days of the year, Rinpoche would, the people who were working around in his rooms, he would give us a kata and some offering, like for the merit of that day. Because Rinpoche loved creating merit. So every opportunity, of course. And then one evening, Rinpoche gave me a kata and an offering and said, thank you. And then I did think it's not a special day. And then I thought, well, you can't say anything because you can't complain about being offered something. It doesn't fit So just be quiet and accept. So that was another sign. So there's a few things like that. Roger, Venerable Roger, the attendant of Rinpoche, mentioned that probably for the last 6 months, Rinpoche became quite intense, busy about finishing things. He noticed that. Like there was an urgency about things that wasn't there before.
And then, what was your reaction when Rinpoche came back from Tsum and took this aspect of not breathing anymore?
Well, actually, we were in Tsum.
Oh, you were in Tsum as well, okay.
Yeah. So, of course, you don't believe at the beginning. You just, the mind gets kind of frozen in disbelief. And you have to just wait till it sinks in. And I think for many mornings, I used to wake up and my first thought was, somebody just tell me it's not true. That's what I wanted. Yeah, I think the second day I cried. The first day I was still frozen in disbelief. And then you just have to get used to a new reality. Isn't it? It's like, I think in Lelung Rinpoche's Swift Return Prayer for Rinpoche, the first verse mentions that Rinpoche passed to show those who didn't get it that impermanence is the nature. I mean, he didn't say it in those words, but that was the point of the verse, for those who didn't understand impermanence. So that's a strong teaching impermanence. You know, an earthquake is also a strong teaching impermanence. When everything shakes, you think, oh, is this going to stop or just keep going like this? Yeah. Impermanence. Everything's impermanent. So it's a good teaching for that. No, anyway, you just have to get used to our new realities all the time, isn't it? You go to work, you get sad. They say, don't come back tomorrow. You got to get used to the new reality. Yeah? Or you're just going along with your everyday life and you fall down the stairs and you break a few pieces of body and you think, oh, I wish I didn't do that. But there you are, that's your new reality all the time. And the more you habituate, yeah, when things go wrong and don't work out. So Rinpoche is teaching us that, yeah. But also, I mean, when Rinpoche was here, is here, sometimes you get, for me anyway, you get caught up in the everyday nature of things. You have to finish that, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to go there, whatever. And then Rinpoche becomes a part of that, a big part of that. But when Rinpoche is not here, you have the time, the space to reflect even more on how amazing Rinpoche was. Because Rinpoche was always amazing, even when he was with us. But sometimes I would get caught in the busyness of it. But there's much more time to really reflect. And especially after Rinpoche passed away, the monks in Kopan would agree with me that we were so surprised how many great lamas of all different traditions came to pay their respects, to kind of thank Rinpoche for his life. It was really like, I couldn't believe. Yeah. No, this was really, so in Rinpoche's seemingly absence of physical form, you can kind of begin to grasp how huge Rinpoche was.
I mean, last year, after the 1 year, anniversary, we went to Solokhumbu, Rinpoche's birthplace, and to Laudo, Rinpoche's hermitage. And on the way, we met many, many Sherpas. Rinpoche was a Sherpa, and I mean, it was known that Rinpoche was loved in the whole world, but I think we didn't realize how much he was also loved in Nepal and in Solokhumbu in Tibet, and we ran into many people who shared so many stories about Rinpoche and who always were crying when they were talking about Rinpoche. For me, that was another finding. I mean, Rinpoche did so much over there, especially recently after the 2015 earthquake. Rinpoche rebuilt so many monasteries and stupas and so forth, and the people, you just mentioned the name of Rinpoche, they start crying.
Even today, flying from Kaya to Delhi, sitting with two, I guess, Tibetans from Tamang, where His Holiness came in from Tibet, Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. And then we were just talking, whatever, and they asked me where I lived, and I said I live in the monastery of my teacher, and who was my teacher, and I said Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I mean, they said, oh, he helped Sarah with their food fund, isn't it? He helped Drepung with this and that. He helped somewhere else with this. People that maybe never met Rinpoche, but his magnanimous presence went far and wide. No, it's really what one person can do, shows how wide the mind can become, how, it's kind of, I live in my little small narrow world doing my little everyday things, but the mind can be developed so much, to do so much. And even though presently I'm in my small little world, it's very inspiring to know that it's not going to always be like that. Thank goodness. That we can change day by day, step by step, every time you do your prayers. And they might seem monotonous because you do them every day and it looks like they're the same. But if you don't do them, then you know what it is to do them. You do them every day, you don't seemingly see any great flash of lightning or profound realization or insight, but just doing them every day builds up something. Now, when I went to Laudo the first time, because in Laudo there's the cave of the Laudo Lama, which is Rinpoche's previous life, and you sit in that cave on a mountainside, and you think, well, Rinpoche's in his last life. He lived there. He sat, because in the later part of his life, I'm not sure how many years, he couldn't walk, so he really didn't move. And he just meditated and developed his mind. And we got the result. Now, he did the work. And then we got that benefit. Yeah. No, and of course the Sherpas, he's a Sherpa. They have special love for him because he's one of them. And they're a group of people with a lot of devotion, a lot of heart. Yes.
Anyone would like to ask a question online or in person? Just feel free. You can unmute yourself on Zoom. And I think there was a question in the chat, maybe. Roland is asking, how can we release emotional blockages or trauma?
Wow, this big, is it? Love yourself. This one Lama, I think, I'm not sure. Anyway, he talks sometimes about essence love. And I haven't listened to his topic extensively, but the little bit I listened, he said, the Nepali people, the Tibetan people, they have this. It's kind of like to be able to sit with yourself and learn to love yourself. Because we all have our own kind of big or small traumas. I'm not a trauma expert by any means. But of course, we all have big and small traumas, and whatever's happened to us is from our positive and negative actions. To be able to slowly accept that we created it. And that's a big one, actually. That's not small, that's huge. And then to still love yourself in spite of that. You know, like you hear the stories of how many of the Tibetans were persecuted in 1959 with the Chinese Revolution, and how they used their minds to make peace with themselves. And then by making peace with themselves, they could make peace with their enemy. And I forget the Lama who came out of Tibet. He'd been in prison for 25 years or something, and he went to see His Holiness. And His Holiness said, you know, he said to His Holiness, there was one time I really felt I was in danger. And His Holiness saying, why did you think they were going to kill you? And he said, no, I thought I would lose compassion for them, for the persecutors in the jail. So, I mean, to do the work to come back to that point of loving yourself in order to be able to have compassion for the circumstance, the people around you, those who you might feel that have inflicted harm on you. I mean, it's a long process, but to be able to go inside and yeah, if you don't love yourself, if you don't have an appreciation for your goodness underneath the trauma that you're experiencing, then you can't heal yourself, right? Because there will always be some black marks in your mind something. To be able to go behind and to love yourself. And we think, oh, I can't love myself because that's just being selfish, and I'm not supposed to be selfish because self-cherishing mind is the source of all the problems. But it's a different kind of cherishing yourself. It's appreciating the goodness of yourself in order to be able to share that goodness with other people. And that's, I think for myself personally, the last couple of years, helping Rinpoche, running errands, cleaning the floor, doing all those profound things that I did. They weren't high profound things. They were like empty the garbage and clean the floor and take out the dead flowers, and right? But that just gave some, I know it, something changed in me that gave me some confidence. Like, I'm not a public speaker, and I never will be, but you would never get me to sit here 5 years ago. I'd walk to the airport first. Something about loving yourself, about appreciating yourself. And that's because Rinpoche had so much love. He loved everybody, right? The ants, the mosquitoes especially. How Rinpoche loved mosquitoes so much. You know, the famous story of Rinpoche, was down near Lumbini, where Venerable Roger was with Rinpoche, and they had set up like a mosquito net for Rinpoche so he would be protected at night sleeping. And when Venerable Roger woke up, Rinpoche had got rid of the net and even lifted his shirt so they had more skin, because all they wanted was a little bit of blood, Rinpoche had decided, and he was offering his body to as many as who wanted it. Right? Now Rinpoche had that kind of love, so to develop a love for yourself that you can share with others. I mean, these aren't instant solutions to trauma, but for me, that's what's underneath. Like Rinpoche told a story once of one lady in America. Her daughter had been abducted, raped, and killed by someone. And almost straight away, she could forgive him because of her faith in God, her own good heart, her own appreciation of herself. She couldn't see any point to hold a grudge, to get angry, to sue, which is the favourite, what people like to do, get back in some way. She forgave him for what most people could never, ever forgive. So in there, she has to love herself to be able to do that. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
We just entered 2025.
Yes.
What are your projects for this year and the years to come?
Well, I probably haven't thought about it. No, actually, every year I think I have a few leftover little kind of jobs and things from Rinpoche, which I must finish. And then people helping me say, when do you need this by? I said, before Rinpoche comes back. So that is in my plan. And I would like my mind to go in the direction of becoming more, what's the word? It's not self-sustaining, but I would like to be able to live in retreat. I'm far, far away from that, but I love the Lamrim. To be more kind of, not isolated in a negative way, but more self-reliant on myself and what I can study and practice to be able to live in retreat. If my life goes a little bit that way,
And I have a final question. Unless people have more questions, of course. But from my side, that's the last one on the list. Could you give some advice, especially for people who are offering service to the Dharma centers, the centers of Rinpoche, and the people who offer service here, how to offer service?
How to offer service? Well, with all your heart. No, I mean, Rinpoche has always said that the centres have two functions. One is for the people who use them, come to the centres for teachings, for pujas, for using the library, for a cup of tea, for whatever, and for the people who work in them. Because sometimes in centres can become like a microcosm of the whole universe. Like all the problems of the world can be in that one building. People's conflicts, people's disagreements, their different ways of solving problems, their whatever. So it's really can be a really intense place. But in that way, you work through a lot of things quickly. So actually, they're really good people who offer service in centres. They often have a really hard time. They get burned out, blah, 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 blah. But you learn a lot about yourself quickly. You may not like it, but you learn a lot quickly. Yeah, and there's probably no one who's ever thought, I'm just going to run away, right? Because sometimes it's like that. But it's really, if you see it as this is my Dharma practice, and you can't practice Dharma until you see your mind, because you have to see your mind to see what you have to change. You have to see the rubbish before you can get rid of it. So it's a process, but you learn something every day, and you create an enormous amount of merit because you're fulfilling the wishes of Rinpoche. I mean, there's so many swift return prayers. May Rinpoche come back quickly, blah, blah, may his wishes be fulfilled. His wishes is that people practice Dharma, become happier and happier using a genuine method. So the centres are for helping people do that. So you have to come back again to your motivation, thinking what the centre is for, what you can contribute. Don't get upset when you mess up, or you get upset, angry, fed up, whatever. It's just part of the process. And then just get up in the morning and do it again. Not the negative part, but you just keep on as much as you can, the positive stuff. And never lose sight that you may do small things, but those small things are very important for the bigger picture. And actually, small things are good because there's not as much ego involved. Washing up the cups afterwards, whatever. No, it's interesting. At Root Institute in Bodh Gaya at the moment, there's a course with Geshe Dorji Namdrol, first ever with Tibetans doing a meditation course. And they're so inspiring. They've got so much interest in this course. You see immediately how that centre is beneficial. And you see the people. When I left this morning, there's one lady reciting some prayer, and she's cleaning the floors of the public toilets happily. Right? That's usually not what people do. And you can hear the chanting coming out. I looked in the toilet door. She had the door up. She was cleaning, right, the floor and whatever. And she's reciting something happily, cleaning up everything. Is that beneficial? Is that making people happy? Of course. She's happy doing it. So to find happiness in doing all the things, understanding that it may be small actions, but the result is eventually for the enlightenment of all beings. Like Lama Zopa Rinpoche said probably more than once, all the financial conflict to resolve, all the problems that a center could have, if one person hears the Dharma, all of those problems are worthwhile. Because Rinpoche sees that person hears the Dharma, so they get imprints. Those imprints will eventually ripen in their enlightenment. So all these mundane problems that we have to deal with, they're so worthwhile. So it's motivation and seeing you're part of a huge picture and being happy about it. Is that good enough?
That's very good, very inspiring, and a lot of food for thought. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, can we use the recording so people can also watch, people from the center and other centers?
If they can bear it. It's a practice of patience.
No, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. And anybody else would like to add one more question? Otherwise, we'll conclude the session here. And thank you so much for answering all these questions and sharing time with us.
And anyway, thank you for inviting me on the last day of my life.
And thank you so much for accepting on such short notice. And I hope next time you are visiting Delhi, then you can benefit again from your profound insights. Thank you so much.
I think Nico is a little bit extreme, but as a result, anyway, we should all dedicate and think from listening, from being patient, from trying to understand when my speech isn't clear, from thinking, what on earth is she talking about? That some more drops in the ocean of enlightenment for every living being. Yep.
Thank you so much. And please accept, please accept this small offering on behalf of Tushita. Okay. Thank you so much. And please come again. Thank you.